Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show. Outlander is a story about lost-in-time English nurse Claire Fraser, née Randall, née Beecham, who got sooked from 1945 to 1743 Scotland, and has been married off to Big Hunk Jamie, but is now suspected of being a French spy by her 20th century hubby's great-great-great-granddad. Last time we left off, Claire had been captured by Blackjack Randall and was about to be tortured and raped, when luckily her husband Jamie burst in through the window with his pistol in his hand. Episode 9, The Reckoning, is different from the episodes we've had in the first half of Season 1, not least of all because it's narrated not by Claire, but by Jamie. Opening up on him skipping some stones down by a river, he prattles on about stepping forwards and being a man, and after a brief chat with a man who might be able to clear his name, he's straight into rescuing Claire from Blackjack. Now this is total Mission Impossible stuff, you could even say Mission Inscottable, oh dear. But they end up capturing guards, he bluffs Blackjack unconscious, and then they have a daring escape amidst a hail of bullets and explosions, and then they dive into the water. Phew! The next morning, they take a break beside the riverbank to try and clear the air, and Jamie has a go at his missus for creating this situation, but Claire's having absolutely none of it, and they end up having a full-on Barney, and then they both get very sad. But, you know, it's not all rosy kiss and make up time, because Jamie might well have forgiven Claire, but it turns out the rest of the lads are still royally pissed off with her because she put everyone's lives in danger and forced them to assault an English stronghold. Luckily, Jamie has an idea to remedy this. He tells Claire that she's going to have a smack, but she ain't down for that, and Jamie has a gleam in his eye and a belt in his hand, and before long he's giving her bum cheeks a wee shine, and he's loving every minute of it. 50 Shades, eat your heart out. Needless to say, this leaves things a little bit frosty between them, as progressive Claire doesn't hold with that sort of thing. This frostiness continues right back to the Castle Leich, where everyone but Colm seems really happy to see them. Because it turns out there's a whole load of political problems as a result of the marriage and the attack on Fort William, and he knows about the Jacobite money raising, and it looks like shit's really going to hit the fan, but luckily Jamie has the presence of mind to put a word in Colm's ear in private and give him a little idea for an amicable way out. Meanwhile, Jamie's getting sniffed around, literally, by wee Leary, who's beside herself that he got married to Claire, and even throws herself at him at the chilly riverside. Ooh, look at those goose pimples, it must have been chilly on set that day. But, as Jamie's an impossibly amazing romantic lead, naturally he turns her down in the nicest possible way, and then goes back to re-pledge himself to Claire, probably in the hope of some nookie and an end to all this marital strife. In a nice hark back to episode 4 in The Gathering, Jamie pledges to his honour to never raise a hand against her again, and in response, Claire flings her kit off, but then, when they're in the middle of it, she jams a knife to his throat and threatens to kill him if he ever does it again, and after that it's all plain sailing, for about 10 minutes of solid nookie, until, in the midst of that post-coital bliss, Claire finds an ill wish under the bed. It's kind of like a sort of Scottish voodoo curse. But who could have left it there? I wonder. So, what did I think? Well, this is the first episode back after the mid-season break that American shows seem to love to have. And it's a nice return to form. The locations all look fantastic, the photography's excellent, and there's some great reacting turns. And between the daring rescue, political shenanigans, and the rampant rumpy-pumpy, there's a wee bit of everything for everyone in this episode. It's also an episode that shows Jamie's side of things, which adds a little more to the impossibly perfect bloke, and it gives us an idea as to his 18th century mind works. It's a good thing with an episode where Jamie does his most old-worldly thing ever, and beats his wife. Now yeah, I'll get to that later on in my grumps, but the episode does at least try and show where his mindset lies, and that it's injustice. He sees it as a punishment for putting him and the rest of the entire clan into some considerable danger, and by running off by herself after she was told to stay put. We also get to see that while he might be conflicted about Claire, he really does love her, enough to turn down the chance of an illicit liaison with Leary when he's at his most pent up and cross with his wife, but he's a good lad, he doesn't do it. The other thing I liked a lot was the politics. The entire side story of Colm, Jamie, Ned, and Dwalin being at odds was the sort of thing the book lacked. And it's nice to get those characters there on their own, although it did also raise its own questions which went unanswered. But this is Grumpy Opinions, and hell yeah, I had more than a few grumps with this week's episode. To begin with, let's get the big elephant out of the room first. Our hero Jamie goes to town on his wife's bum with a leather belt. Now, this is one of the most controversial moments in the book, sure, and they played it as a bit of a laugh in the show to minimise the fact that essentially it's domestic abuse, or it's non-consensual BDSM, so no matter how you look at it, it's really, really not cool. The counter-side to this is that it was never going to play out well for any audience other really than people who are total book apologists. You look at this on any reading, and Jamie's an 18th century man. He's got 18th century values, while Claire is a moderately more enlightened early 20th century woman who's grown up during suffragettism and suffragistism, which are two different things. But she's still from an era where women were kind of looked down on, and what's more, she's from a time where she'd have been belted, caned, and slapped on the wrist with a strop all of her childhood, both at home and at school. And even if her enlightened Tomb Raider uncle hadn't done that, she'd be kind of used to it happening to other people. So, while we're viewing this as 21st century folks, hell, I'm a child of the 90s, well, the idea of a husband disciplining his wife visibly is absolutely abhorrent to a modern audience. But it's worth bearing in mind that historically, it's not nearly as shocking to the people involved. To Jamie, this is an average Tuesday afternoon's occurrence. To Claire, it's humiliating, but it's not completely out of the ordinary for her experiences and knowledge of the world. The trouble is, what was okay in a book written 20 years ago, which was a shocking plot point and a sly stroke moment for middle-aged women. Don't think I don't got your number on that one, Galbadoon. But for a modern, liberal, feminist audience, it was always going to be a little bit problematic. As it stands, I think they played it right as a little bit of a joke. But I don't doubt that this is going to split the audience right down the middle. Beyond that, the prison break sequence felt a little bit too easy for the heroes. And as for the whole don't kill anyone thing with it behind the whole empty pistol moment, I don't see how the explosion was meant to not kill anyone. Someone really needs to tell Ron Moore about the balloon effect and the effect of shock waves on internal organs, because those soldiers standing beside the gunpowder barrels were dead. No, really, they were dead. No one's getting up after that. Their spleen, lungs, intestines, and all that jazz is going to be rupturing all over the shop. Messy. Anyway, my other main gripe about this otherwise pretty damn good episode was that it's the first one that felt a little bit over-edited. The Horrocks scene at the start felt truncated to all hell, and the political stuff with Colm talking about Jamie being his intended heir felt like it was missing a scene or a sentence or two explaining that sudden, unexpected clangor. I'd also say that Jamie is perhaps leaning a little bit too far into the perfect side, apart from the domestic abuse that is, but Jamie is this generation's Mr. Darcy, so I'd probably be talking nonsense. Still, I really liked it overall. The series is definitely back on track, and back with a vengeance, and I can't wait for the rest of the season. So, till next week, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions.